Pleasure. I, Anis Ali, the MC for today, welcome you all to the Sustainability Hackathon 2024, titled Hack the Future, where ideas become impact. Presented to you by the School of Business, St. Joseph's University. Prayer is the key that unlocks storehouses of God's infinite grace and power. It is the link that connects us to God. Thereupon, I invite the Josephite choir to lead us all into prayer.
Blessed be your name, the land that is plentiful, and streams of abundance flow. Blessed be your name. Blessed be your name, when found in the desert place, we'll walk through the wilderness. Blessed be your name. Every blessing you pour out, turn back to praise. When the darkness closes in, Lord, still I will say, blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name.
Thank you, choir, for the soulful melody. Let us begin this auspicious event by cordially welcoming all those who have gathered here. With great honor, we welcome the chief guest of the day, Mr. Angelo George, Chief Executive Officer, Bisleri. We also have with us the guest speaker of Hackathon, Ms. Kanika Myers, Knowledge Partner at Vertex Ventures. We also would like to welcome Professor Sarah John, Head of Department of Management, Professor Amita Priyadarshini, Head of Department of Commerce, Assistant Professor Ms. Sana Begum, Coordinator Hackathon, Ms. Immaculate Mary, Convener ICBD, the esteemed guests of Hackathon, members of the faculty of School of Business, non-teaching staff, participants, and the students with us today. We extend you all a hearty welcome. Now, with immense pleasure, I would like to call upon Professor Amita Priyadarshini, Head of Department of Commerce, School of Business, to deliver the official welcome address.
Good morning, everyone. This event, Hackathon, is a commitment of the School of Business in our belief that sustainability is the key of the art. Our conference, ICBD, is the International Conference on Business Dynamics, is a conference that we have started in the year 2016. And for the last 5 years, we've always focused on corporate sustainability as the major theme of this particular conference. Now, in the run-up to this particular conference, a conference which brings together academia, it brings together industry, it brings together students, it brings together policymakers, all of us coming together to ideate, to figure out how we can be more sustainable and at the same time, of course, look at profitability as well. So this is the idea with which we started ICBD. So the hackathon is our way of looking at bringing in student collaboration to bring in ideas to solve problems that are faced by businesses today. And this is our collaboration in bringing industry, students and academia in order to look into this idea of sustainability. Today for our event, we have our esteemed guests for the day, and it's with great pleasure that I welcome Mr. Angelo, the Bisleri CEO, who has agreed to grace our event today. Can you all give a huge round of applause for Mr. Angelo? We are so happy to have you here, sir, today, and a little later he will be also speaking to us. And I think that's something that we all are definitely looking forward to. Also today, I would like to welcome Ms. Kanika Myers, the knowledge partner of Vertex Ventures. So Vertex Ventures is a venture capital company, and very specifically, she is looking into funding startups which are more inclined towards sustainable initiatives. And Vertex Ventures also has agreed to partner with us on Hackathon, and maybe they would possibly fund a very, very good idea that comes up from the student population today. So I welcome you, ma'am, as well, to St. John's University. I welcome, of course, Ms. Sarah John, the Head of Department of Management, to the School of our School of Business. Of course, we have the Department of Management and the Department of Commerce, and we come together every year to organize ICBD. I also welcome Ms. Immaculate Mary, my fellow co-convener of ICBD 5.0, and Ms. Sana Begum, who is the convener of this edition of Hackathon. I also welcome our dignitaries of the dais, Ms. Nisha Ninan, who is our partner, and her entire team who partnered with us in organizing Hackathon and ensuring that this event sees fruition. I welcome all of you. And Hackathon, as I mentioned, is of course student communities coming together to ideate, to problem solve, because that's what a hackathon is. But we didn't want it to be something that is just theoretical and that you just do in order to maybe take part in a competition. We would like tangible ideas to come from this particular event, ideas that can be implemented. And with that view, we also have with us today all our, I should say, mentors, our industry mentors who've come in to ensure that, of course, that there is applicability in what you've done. And so I welcome Mr. Abhijit from LTI Mindtree, Professor Briggy Devi, a former IIMD professor. I welcome Mr. Tejas Namburi from EcoTrail, Mr. Shakti from Social Spotlight, Mr. Vijay Krishnan from Sahas, Mr. Selvam George, Mr. Prajwal and Ms. Justina from Bisleri, Dr. Manjunath from the Gandhian School of Natural Farming, and Mr. Dhruv from Odebo. We welcome all our industry partners today. You'll be mentoring these students over the next 1 month, and we're so happy that you will agree to do so. I also very specially welcome Father Arul Raj from Ashirwad. They have looked up, they are our hospitality sponsors for this event. Thank you so much, Father, for everything. I welcome all the staff members from the School of Business, all our delegates for today, our student participants, volunteers, and of course my fellow students. Dear students, welcome to Hackathon. We're so happy that you're here, and let's make that difference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your kind words of welcome. I would kindly request Ms. Leena Baptist from the Department of Management to introduce the esteemed chief guest of the day, Mr. Angelo George, CEO Bisleri, to the audience present here with us today.
Mr. Angelo George is the CEO of Bisleri International. With over 3 decades of experience in the corporate realm, Angelo has been associated with leading organizations in FMCG, consumer durables, and pharmaceutical industries, and has served leadership roles. Mr. Angelo is a transformational leader with a deep understanding of the market dynamics and a passion for innovating and being ahead of time. Mr. Angelo has graduated from Madras Christian College and holds a PGDM from Bangalore University. He has also completed an advanced global management program from ISB Hyderabad and Kellogg School of Management, Chicago. An avid brand builder, Mr. Angelo has provided strategic direction and built new businesses. Under his aegis, Bisleri has registered the highest growth rates, strengthening its position as a market leader. Bisleri leverages its best-in-class network, reaching out to consumers and provided exemplary services during the pandemic. The human-based brand communication sharply differentiates Bisleri from other brands. Mr. Angelo has strengthened the sustainability initiatives to ensure Bisleri recycles more plastic than what it uses and harvests and replenish more water than it is being used. He has positioned Bisleri as a socially responsible brand with leading initiatives to promote plastic and water neutrality. Bisleri is a setting remarkable example for responsible corporate practices. Mr. Angelo was chosen as one of the inspiring CEOs at the Economic Times CEO Conclave 2022. We are glad to have you here, sir. Over to you, Anand.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your kind words of welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to welcome the chief guest of the day, Mr. Angelo George, CEO of Bisleri, to kindly share his words of wisdom with us today.
Good morning. First of all, my sincere thanks to Father Victor, the Vice Chancellor, Dr. Christo, the Dean, and Nisha ma'am, and all the people in the organizing committee for inviting me to be part of this wonderful event. And I'm actually delighted to see so many people in front of me. I feel almost like a politician. I think I'm sure there will be interesting conversations which will happen during the day, which will articulate the importance of sustainability for a country like us. I mean, by nature, we are thrifty people, right? We value things. We don't throw them away easily. Fundamentally we believe that we can reuse and reuse. I think the economy requires these themes to move into the next level of growth. And coming from the industry, I thought it's important for me to possibly share with you a perspective about plastic circularity and put to rest some of the misconceptions that a lot of us carry for a variety of reasons. I think that's what I will spend about 10 minutes of my time. Also share with you some of the things which we do as an organization, and I'm sure there are my colleagues in other organizations who are doing equally well or even better. Now, interestingly, plastic as a material came into existence something like about 100 plus years. I think 1917 is when the first patent for PVC was given in Germany. And it has been a phenomenal journey after that, because 1982 was the time when the first artificial heart made out of polyurethane was put into a human being and continued to function effectively. So it's come really a long way. What are the two critical parameters of plastic? Benefits of plastic: durability and the entire versatility, because we must always remember in life there is a trade-off, right? As students, you can choose to play or you can choose to study. Now, what you do defines the course of what happens later. Correct? There's a trade-off. Or there's a balance which one can achieve. So this was actually a trade-off against natural materials, and that is why it became so much more popular, cost-effective, and also non-corrosive. Right from the time you wake up in the morning, the toothbrush, the bristles, the nylon bristles or the handle, to the time when you go to bed and put an alarm on your mobile phone, plastic is all pervasive in our lives. However, one problem that we have is that, when you talk about metals, do you identify everything as metal? Do you treat iron and gold as similar? I'm sure there are a lot of girls sitting out here. Maybe your generation is not as obsessed as my generation of women about buying gold jewelry. but I'm sure you value that differently, right? However, in the terms of plastic, unfortunately, which is graded differently based on its versatility, durability, and recyclability, we call everything as plastic, which is actually wrong. That's the first perspective I thought I should put to rest. I'm sure you can see now that there is an aspect which is different with certain kinds of plastics with the other kind of plastic you see on the left side. And we need to start realizing as a group of consumers, industry has always recognized this, but I think consumers lack this perspective that different kinds of plastic are different. Now, when you think of plastic, the first thing that comes to our mind is packaging. When you think about plastic in a disparaging manner, what comes to mind is that everything seems to be packed in plastic today. But I think we need to understand that of the total plastic usage in India, which is relevant to us, just 36% is actually plastic packaging. And is that doing anything to the products? Look at it, 2 grams of plastic extends a shelf life by 11 days. But if we were allowing that food to go waste, it's almost 5 times more CO2 that gets released into the atmosphere. Again, a trade-off. Okay, I think we need to have this perspective right. Because end of the day, what we are talking about is the CO2 impact in terms of our environment. I come from a company, I work for a company called Bisleri, one of the most recognizable brands in the country. Over the last 50 years we've been here, providing safe, pure mineral water to the consumers. Now, another question I'm sure will come to your mind is mineral water a necessity or a convenience? You know, even a lot of people actually started putting mineral water bottles picture along with single-use plastic. I thought my one slide behind clarified that aspect. PET is not a single-use plastic. It is an endlessly recyclable plastic, and that is what mineral water bottles are made of. But come back to the question as to why do you find mineral water bottles across the country when you travel? It's not just an industry reason, because we would like to sell more water, but doesn't mean that the consumer is interested in buying. So there is a consumer reason for this. The fact that only 47% of houses in urban India has a pipe connection coming to their house. And you can see that out of about 780 districts in the country, 460 of them, and some states completely, have underground, that's groundwater contaminated by a variety of harmful chemicals and minerals. So you require healthy water for people to drink. And then the question that comes to mind is, that solution, that water needs to be affordable for the general population, because it is a large requirement, as you can see on the side. Now, as a company, as an organization selling water, I am completely neutral to packaging. Okay, we are not interested in selling plastic. So don't take me as a messiah for plastic industry. No, I am completely neutral. But when I evaluate a material which I can put my product in, either a water or any other beverage, I look at these 5 things. Safety, there should not be any physical or chemical interactions with the product inside. It has to be functionally equivalent or superior to what I have today. It has to be cost effective. I'm sure you understood that from the earlier slide. And it has to be scalable. You know, people keep coming to me and saying, sir, we have got this fancy bamboo bottle. Okay, apparently sustainable. No, first of all, it's not sustainable, because you're going to destroy all the bamboo forests. Secondly, it's not scalable. I mean, you have seen the requirement. Almost this huge population of India requires mineral water. And unless your idea is scalable, for my industry, I don't think it's relevant. And the last line is actually more important because when I look at any alternative, what I look at is what is the final carbon footprint? Not just from the product that you have in your hand versus the further recyclability. And maybe this, okay, before I get into that, one of the most favorite ones doing in the WhatsApp University is about safety of PET. You keep it in sun, okay, you're likely to have a lot of problems, etc. PET, incidentally, has been one of the most studied plastics around the world, certified by regulatory authorities across continents, and some of them are very, very stringent. And one of the things which we did as a people who are using PET, we are also members of the PACE, which is an association of people who are using plastics in India. We commissioned a study with CFTRI of Mysore, and that was a 2-year study to find out if there are any leaching of chemicals which is happening from plastic into the contents, and are the harmful chemicals detectable above a certain threshold level which is acceptable. Are there kind of endocrine disturbances which can happen on account of products packed in PET packaging? It had conclusively said no, and it's not a small study, it's a very extensive study. You can see that on the screen. Now on carbon footprint, actually what people fail to recognize is that a lot of alternatives seem apparently interesting. Aluminum cans, for example. You can look at an aluminum can which is actually 3x more in terms of solid waste, energy to create. People forget that bauxite is mined, transported, hot processed, again cold processed to bang into sheets, made into aluminum cans. If you have to reprocess it again a huge amount of heat is required. PET melts at 250 degrees. Glass melts at about 1400 degrees. So, when look at people tell us about glass. That's the ideal solution for sustainability. In the United States, 12 million tons of glass is generated every year. And you'll be surprised to know 36% is the recycling that happens for that glass. What happens to the rest of it? Going into landfills, lying there, it will take a few hundred years to possibly disintegrate. So irrespective of the recyclability, if your ecosystem is not conducive to reprocessing that in a cost-effective manner, it just doesn't work. So we are equally cognizant of this. At this point of time, we see that PET or plastic seems to be a safe, which I mentioned earlier, and a low carbon footprint alternative for packaging for the industry. Not just our industry, I have mentioned over there Lego. There are people who provide play materials for kids. They were looking at alternatives to plastic which are safe and economical. Okay, a crude oil based product which they can create. It was almost a 5 to 7 year search. They have given up that initiative or most of that initiative because they couldn't find that economical nor value added. I think it's important to have this perspective. However, it's not all bells and whistles for plastic. This is what you see in front of us. Tons of plastic lying all around. But tell me, is the plastic to blame for this or the people who are to be blamed for this? I think that's an important question for us to ask ourselves. While we generate around 26,000 tons of plastic in the country, but in India you've got this garbage pickers, the poor people who go to pick up this, sort it out. It is collected, recycled to an extent of 60% as per the statement of the minister in the Rajya Sabha. Plastic recycling, is it better in India versus the rest of the world? You can see that the consumption in the United States, the plastic consumption is 10 times more per capita than India. And the recycling is something like about 20-24%. In India, it's about 60% you saw. And for PET, it is about 90%. In fact, 92% is the ministry's report tabled in the Lok Sabha. Then that brings us to a question. As far as we are looking at plastic circularity, can India become actually the world leaders? We are already at 60% and demonstrate to the world that yes, we are, go back to the first thing I quoted, we are a thrifty population, correct? We have that mindset of saving. We have that mindset of being very judicious about what we do in terms of resources. Can we become the leaders in recycling? And rather, I would say upcycling. Because to me, putting plastic back into bitumen, into the road is the worst form that you can continue to do. If you can convert that plastic into higher value-added stuff, which I'll speak about a little later, that is the way to kind of enhance the durability. So you're able to recycle and repurpose plastic. That is when the true leadership will happen in the global arena. I think the starting point for this possibly is sustainable consumption and behavior change. All of us know this, but interestingly, I must share with you a personal story, two personal stories maybe. Once we were traveling to Nainital, I used to operate out of Delhi in those days, in a different organization. So there was a family trip to Nainital. On the way back, me and wife were sitting in front and our youngest son was in the front. So I'd opened a packet of chips, had it, and down the window, threw it outside. My son told the driver, Ashok, stop. He got out of the car and stood like this. Must have been about 10, 12 years at that time. So he said, Dad, please go and pick up that. I said, listen, what shit? Kajra is better inside the car or outside the car? So he said, you created the kachra in the car, then you are accountable for taking it home. Now, obviously, you can imagine a father's reaction, no? The kid is going to teach the father. So obviously, I got a little wild. Then it struck me, my God, I am supposed to be teaching him. He is telling me. So I shamelessly went, picked it up, took it all the way back to Delhi and put it in the garbage bin at home. It's a very humbling experience, but I think that's possibly the last time I had consciously littered. The second thing was a Bangalore story. I lived in Bangalore in the 90s. I used to work here. The first day in Bangalore, and we had lived in Chennai before that. I'm not disparaging to any Chennaites sitting here, including Justina. We used to find that the garbage is generally bundled in the morning and, sent like something, like a missile to the nearest available empty space. But here when I came, I saw that there was a garbage bin and people were actually going to the bin and putting it inside. And there was not one bag outside the round bin. So I went home, called my wife, I think you must come and see this. So I showed my wife, I think this is dramatic, this is what Bangalore appears to be. I think they come to the right town. So great stuff, I hope that it's keeping up in Bangalore now. I think it was a very responsible thing because I saw a woman with a kid coming and the woman was making the kid lean and put it into that round bin over there. So a lot of it I think is intentional. But I think the solution for this possibly is in our mindset. We keep newspapers, right? All of us keep newspaper at home, or your parents. Do you know that it just gives you 8 rupees per kilo? Or maybe in Bombay about 7 rupees 50 paisa. But a PET gives you 15 rupees per kilo. And why are we throwing it out? So I think the first instance is we are not realizing the value of this product. That even to the kabadi wala I can give it for 15 rupees and that is an interesting thing. So it requires a behavior change, right? Equally, I think people fail to understand that this is a huge industry in terms of recycling. I don't think people have this perspective. One day I was coming to Hyderabad and there was a gentleman who was sitting next to me. So he appeared very wealthy. And I was asking him many years back, okay, many years, 10, 15, 12 years back. So I asked him, what do you do? So he said, I collect the garbage of the city. So I said, oh, that's interesting. And he said it as a matter of fact, you know. So I said, what all goes into that? So then he started describing the infrastructure, the people, the whole network, and how much money to be earned in sorting out this garbage, the electronic waste and all that stuff. I said, wow, that's very interesting, because his EBITDA working, I'm sure the management graduates here, was actually 4% better than mine at that point in time. And I was working in a good company. So it's a big industry. You can see those numbers. It's a $10.2 billion industry. So if there are entrepreneurs sitting out here, this is one great idea. There is huge amount of money to be made from waste, and we are at an inflection point, okay, where the infrastructure is actually coming. However, I think one challenge we have, you can see that every state in the country is getting prosperous, right? And with prosperity, you have a lot of plastic waste which gets generated. So the waste generation is by and large equally distributed across the country in terms of consumption centers. But 82% of the recyclers are only in 7 states. So in a state like Orissa, in a state like Chhattisgarh, in a state like Madhya Pradesh, in a state like Kerala, there are no recyclers today. I'm talking about the value added repurposing recyclers, not the guys who convert it into bitumen and put it into the road. No. The value added recycling, which will add value to the product and the industry, is constrained in these 7 states. So what happens is, why should I spend, a Maharashtra recycler will think, why should I spend 15 rupees more transporting the stuff from Kerala when I can get it here in Maharashtra, possibly cheaper? Because at the end of the day, the economics of industry works on profitability. So this is something we've been requesting the Ministry of Environment, the CPCB and various government bodies to set up. It requires their help in terms of subsidizing infrastructure, subsidizing space for people who are willing to kind of set up recycling. You know, there was a time when there used to be an excise rebate for setting up industries in back of beyond areas. And that's how townships like Badi and Pantnagar, and if you look at even Tejpur and all developed. I think it's time for India to look at subsidizing plastic industry infrastructure and facilities. But upcycling is easier said than done. It requires disruptive innovation. You can see what's the conversion rate. Our uniforms in Bisleri are made from PET bottles. I think about 36 to 38 bottles will make one t-shirt, one full sleeve shirt. There's an upcycling possibility on that. And it's also important that this entire recycling process is made interesting. Okay, it is not a low-grade activity. It is actually a high value-added activity. You can see the President of India there. And it's also trendy when top designers in the country starts adopting recycled plastic materials for creating fashionable clothes. And real value-added repurposing gets prime attention. That's my college mate standing next to the Prime Minister, Shankar from Erode. He had created that jacket which Prime Minister wore in Parliament. You can see the upcycling possibility. Look at it, 15 rupees per kilo on PET gets so maybe about 80, 100 bucks or 150 rupees gets converted into a t-shirt which is about anything upwards of 900 rupees, and then branding defines whether it is 2000 or 10,000. Also, as an organization, as a country, I think let's not just do navel gazing, let's also look outside. What are the best global practices? One thing is to look at the really developed countries. There's a deposit system in Norway and Germany for plastic bottles. So you pay €1 plus 10 cents. You get a bottle to drink, you put it back and you get your €1 back. So it creates an accountability because by locking your capital, there is a need for you to go and recover it. Okay? It is like in some airports you have those trolleys. You have to put a coin inside only, then you can release the trolley. The objective is for you to put it back and not discard it in public spaces. Okay, so it's not really about the value of the coin. The similar is what they're doing in these advanced countries. Japan, for example, they said, listen, in one packaging you can have only one kind of material. So if it's PET, then the cap has to be PET, body PET, and the label PET. So it can just be chucked in for reprocessing. Because if you have an HDPE cap, a polypropylene label, and then PET, this thing, you have to separate out these before recycling process, which makes it more difficult. But equally interesting, I used to look after Bangladesh at one point in time, apart from my India role. What shocked me was it's a completely non-vegetarian country, okay? Irrespective of the religion, everybody has to buy fish in the morning. And I said, there is no plastic bag. And that is about 10 years back. And I believe even 10 years earlier they had implemented this. They said no plastic bag in Bangladesh. Did people adapt? Definitely adapt. They said we will use our jute bags or cloth bags. We will put a steel vessel to buy our fish and meat. So anything which is going to leak, it created that reuse concept. Before year, I was in Sri Lanka and we were in one of those nice, beautiful beaches. And the beaches were absolutely clean. And Sri Lanka is no different a country in terms of population and perspective as compared to us. So I asked the shack guy, I'm super impressed with your beach. It's so beautiful and clean. So he said, sir, I have a problem. It is my accountability to keep my front clean. So every half an hour I have to send my chotu to pick up all the garbage which is lying around the beach. Government creates that accountability. Okay, so it falls into place. Now, let's also look at the evolution of the regulatory landscape. The plastic management rules which government brought in 2016, the extended producer responsibility making people like us accountable, policy of 2022, single-use plastics happened in 22. Now there's a new mandate that 10% reuse of packing greater than 900 ml, I will have to actually start from 25-26. So even plastic as a material, even for the same purpose to be reused. What is more interesting is what is declared in last August under the National Green Credits, where individuals and corporates and others and collectives, cooperative collectives are going to be rewarded by the government for environmental friendly activity. It includes water conservation, plastic management, waste management and everything. So if you do good to environment, you get credit points which you can then trade like carbon credits. And that mechanism is going to come into place. And as we speak, we have created something on water credits as an organization, and we are tabling it with the Ministry of Jal Shakti. So that will be an interesting thing. We have defined how the credit possibly could be given to different industries based on the percolation of water and the availability of monsoon rainfall and stuff like that. Different subject altogether. Interestingly, there is something else also happening. Started in 2022. United Nations Environmental Agency, which is headquartered in Kenya, has been spearheading an international regulatory action in terms of defining what's the right word for that? One second, ILBI. Internationally legally binding instrument, where every country can generate only so or use only so much of primary plastic. They need to recycle so much of primary plastic. And 170 countries have participated in November meeting. The next one is scheduled in March or April. And the final draft is going to come out in September, which means even as a country, India, you can only import so much of plastic, you can only produce so much of primary plastic, and you have an accountability for recycling at a country level. And that's going to be a global agreement. said, it also requires design innovations like I spoke earlier, recycled PET facilities, optimizing the material cost in terms of how the crude is converted, etc. Now, that brings me to our story. I'm sure as an industry, as a company, do we have an accountability? Definitely yes. I think our chairman passionately believes that used plastic is valuable. We were one of the first companies to import a plastic recycling machine from Japan, and it is still there in our compound because he believed that we can recycle, and this is 1992, which is a good 30 years before anyone spoke about plastic recycling in the country. And like I said, our uniforms are from PET, recycled to PET, and we're actively working, collecting waste and then creating value out of it. I think the introducer spoke about this. You know, when the rule came that 70% of plastic need to be recycled, that's about 3 years back. I told my team, no, I think, why don't we try for 100% recycling? So they said, it won't happen. I said, try it. Let's aim for 100 and see where we land. And you won't be surprised. The first year was 102, 104, and as we speak now, it's 107% of the plastic. It means for every 100 kilo I put in, we're enabling recycling of 107 kilos. Similarly, for water, we said water is something which we need to replenish. We are drawing water. How good is our conversion? A domestic RO converts 60% of the water into finished product, 40% goes down your drain. We convert upwards of 90%. All the factories, we have got rainwater harvesting. We build check dams, and the latest one is we have restored a reservoir in Leh. It's a beautiful picture also because of the landscape. 108% of what we extract, we put it back into the ground. And that's what we have done. We look at CO2 savings on a monthly level. There's somebody accountable for this. It's actually 73% higher than last year in terms of our CO2 savings, which combine plastic savings, energy saving, transportation savings. And as we speak, we're actually moving into electric delivery vehicles, which are going to be less polluting in the metro cities. But I think the manufacturers are still in the process of working that out. So we're working very closely with at least 3 of the largest companies to ensure. I'm also a big trucker in the country because we manage a lot of trucks to reach the water to you people. We believe that starting with that first slide, 80% of littering is intentional. We believe that it has to start there. That one behavior change, we educate people to sort and clean. When the food comes to you from Zomato, after you have taken it out and put it into your plate, wash it and keep it on the side. If you don't require that 15 rupees, give it to your housekeeping guy. Let him accumulate it. Bisleri has got a program called Bottles for Change, which you can see on the screen. You can download the app, press a button, inform I want a pickup. We will arrange a pickup either from the local agent or our own trucks will come and pick it up. And we don't allow this to go into a municipal truck or a dump yard. It will go straight to recycling. So everybody gets better money in the bargain. The proceeds of this actually go to benefit the rag pickers. We have in many of the cities, we have evening schools for them, for their kids to be educated. So it is nothing to do, it's not a profit-making parallel business for Bisleri, it is for social good. This is how it works. So it goes from the app to finally the finished product. And as we speak, on 22nd in Ayodhya, we have got the Ayodhya municipality's permission to ensure that all bins are placed from 20 kilometers into Ayodhya from both sides in the road, and in the premises there will be bins of Bisleri and Bottles for Change trucks will be going around supplementing the efforts of Ayodhya municipality to pick up any plastic waste and not allow it to go to the landfill and spoil that pristine environment government is trying to create. Thank you. So how do we do it? There are two colleagues of mine sitting here who belong to the Bottles for Change team. We go and talk to the municipalities, get the permission, because I can't go to a housing society saying that Bisleri truck will come. They will say, who the hell are you? So I need a permission from the municipality saying Bisleri is authorized to collect this stuff. So we work with about Bombay, Delhi, Noida, Gurgaon, Ahmedabad, Chennai, Bangalore. Bangalore we just started recently, Hyderabad and Chandigarh now. Okay, and moving into Pune this month. We also work with a lot of corporates, 800 plus corporates. Some of the names you can see, educational institutions, some of the top hotels and restaurants, where we say when your plastic is accumulated to a level, inform us, we will pick it up. And the footprint in educational institutions, we would like to do this in St. Joseph's. You know why I chose to accept this invitation? So far the journey on Bottles for Change has been that we go and meet the dean, the principal and the academia and then percolate it downwards. I thought this is a great opportunity for me to come and talk to you guys who can then tell your academia and the principal and the dean that we want Bottles for Change in our institution. So it's a nice marketing in that way. I thought let me try this strategy. These are some of the institutions we are already present across the country. You can see some of the biggest ones are there. Not only this, we are also training rural entrepreneurs for getting into garbage collection or plastic recycling. This is work with TERI, the Energy Research Institute in Delhi, where we are training. We just trained the first batch now in rural. So they will then set up the recycling facilities in the rural markets. And that's the first batch going. I have a small 1-minute clip before I conclude, which possibly captures what we do as an organization. Thank you. And that's our Bangalore factory in Bisleri. So, I think I've taken a little more time, sorry for that. I think sustainability calls for a collective effort from consumers where we need to moderate consumption. Wherever you don't require plastic packaging, I think we should be comfortable about reusing our stuff. And there is a behavioral change which is required to dispose responsibly. Trade and establishments like that shack in Unawatuna be accountable for disposal of consumption in their premises. Industry, we need to work at cost efficiency, recyclability and things like this, which is social interventions. And government obviously need to invest in circularity infrastructure, enforce regulations, and we need to catch them young. My son taught me a story, and I think it's important that all of us young guys teach our families the story of recycling and responsible consumption. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable input. Indeed, those words were very meaningful. I'm sure the crowd has learned a lot from you. I'll kindly request Ms. Sri Lakshmi from the Department of Commerce to introduce our esteemed guest speaker to our audience today.
Thank you, Anil. Kanika Myers is a partner with Vertex Ventures, Southeast Asia and India, and focuses on opportunities in India. As a partner, she invests in and works closely with the technological companies in multiple sectors such as consumer, healthcare, business-to-business enterprises, sustainability, and financial services. Prior to joining Vertex, investment officer with the International Finance Corporation, where she focused on investing in early stage technology, telecom, renewable energy, and infrastructure companies across India and South Asia. Before IFC, Kanika was with Goldman Sachs investment banking team covering transactions in natural resources in Europe. Kanika holds a Bachelor in Economics from Lady Shri Ram College, Delhi University, and an MBA from Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. We are glad to have you here, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you so much. With immense honor, I would kindly request the guest speaker for today, Ms. Kanika Myers, Knowledge Partner at Vertex Ventures, to kindly address the gathering.
Hi everyone. I'm very excited to be here today, and I want to thank everyone here at St. Joseph's for having me come here and talk to you about a topic which is becoming incredibly important from our perspective. So I work for an early stage venture capital firm called Vertex Ventures, and as part of the different companies that we invest in, we're increasingly focusing on companies which are working in a more sustainable manner. And therefore, what I want to talk to you about is how you can build real profitable businesses in the space. And therefore, this space is becoming very, very interesting from a business perspective and also from an investment perspective. All right, to set the context, if I can have the next slide up. I've pulled a very, very basic and easy definition of what venture capital means. This is a form of financing where investors like me invest in early stage companies which are meant to have long-term growth potential. So what are we really looking for? We're looking for companies which are disruptive, which can disrupt the status quo in traditional businesses and do so using innovative business models and use technology. And if they are successful, then over the long term, they can become large, scalable, profitable, and at that point, investors like us stand to make superior investment returns. Now, this is incredibly important because everything we do as an investor is designed to achieve this objective. Now, at Vertex, next slide please. We've been doing this for a long time. So we have about $1 billion invested across 80 companies. And what's important for you guys is that these investments are split across different countries and different sectors. So as an investor, portfolio diversification is incredibly important for us. You'll see in the next slide that really the first part of finding good assets to invest in is identifying the regions that we want to go into. Now, all of us here know that India is an incredibly fast-growing economy. We are going to become the third largest country globally by 2030, and that makes India a very important investment destination. Alongside that, we're seeing similar trends in other countries in Southeast Asia, so Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, and therefore these countries are also important for us. Now, the next piece for us to figure out is what sectors we want to invest in, or what are the investment theses that we want to build for the future. And this is really where sustainability comes in as a real and tangible business problem to solve. And that's why we're looking at founders building in this space. So if you see the first chart, this is actually a snippet from the latest United Nations report, which talks about the progress which has been made in Sustainable Development Goals until 2023. There are 17 goals. I've only put a few on the slide. But if you open the report and check, and if you see the progress column, it's pretty much red or orange or at best yellow. So very little progress has been made. And what this means for us is that we expect over the next decade, governments across the world, sovereign funds, and capital allocators will start investing more aggressively in sustainability and sustainable businesses because these are goals globally all of us have committed to. Now, if you talk about India, and if you look at the list on the slide, we are massively resource constrained, and this is already starting to appear in breakages in infrastructure, in healthcare, in water, pollution, etc. So as entrepreneurs, if you were to pick just one of these problems, and if you were to solve even just a fraction of it, that itself would mean a very large and valuable company. And that is why investors like myself are thinking about sustainability as an investment thesis to back. Now with that context, I want to walk you through some real examples. These are companies which we have invested in, or funds like us have invested in. And these are companies across different sectors. So I'm going to talk you through a few, and hopefully this will give you a little bit more flavor of the businesses that can be built in this space. So moving on. Next slide, please. The first sector we're investing in is the consumer economy, and here we're looking at backing sustainable consumer brands. Now, most of you will know India has about 700 million people using the internet. About 200 million people are shopping online. They're consuming information. They're buying products from Amazon, Flipkart, Nykaa, etc. And what this means is that the new age consumer, the Gen Zs and the millennials, people like you and me, we're very discerning, right? We only want to engage with brands which match our value systems. These are brands which are cleaner, they are kinder, they are healthier, and also they are greener. So that is something which is becoming very prevalent in the trends that we track. The second part of the equation is that consumers in India are very value-led. So we want to consume locally, but we want to give our money to brands which give us good value for money and respect the investment we are putting into them. And if we take all these factors together, we do believe that India is at an inflection point for sustainable brands, brands which are digital first and are building products in a sustainable fashion and catering to the needs of the new age consumer. So in the next slide, I have two examples for you. These are from our portfolio, and maybe you've heard of them. If not, you can always look them up later. One of them is a company called Pilgrim. So this is a beauty and personal care brand. Pilgrim has something which is called a Pilgrim code, and this code ensures that all the products they launch in the market are sustainable across many different factors. They're also innovating on packaging, and they're trying to make the supply chain more plastic neutral or plastic positive. The other company on the slide is a company called Licious. So Licious is an online meat and seafood delivery platform. What's interesting about Licious is the backend that they've created. So Licious procures different meats and poultry directly from producers or farmers. And they built an integrated supply chain using technology where at every node they control quality and they control wastage to make sure that when the product reaches the consumer, it's fresh and of the highest quality. And why is this important? So if you look at the numbers, India has one of the largest percentages of food and agricultural waste in the world. And this has direct implications on how we can grow sustainability as a country and make sure we are secure in terms of food and availability of grain to the population. So Licious is a commercial company, but the technology they are building at the back end is actually very sustainable in terms of supply chain and can go towards solving problems like agricultural waste. This actually brings me to the next thesis that we're investing in, and this is in supply chains for the future. Now, if you take any micro segment in India, you see that the supply chain is extremely fragmented. The speaker before, he spoke about how the recycling supply chain has a lot of these small recyclers and garbage pickers, right? Similarly, you have thousands of small manufacturers or small suppliers or small food processors, and they typically sell their products forward to a middleman. And as a result, what happens is that by the time a product comes to its final destination, it has been through a lot of middlemen, and there has been a lot of waste and inefficiency in the process. There is data to show that most large companies do not have any visibility into really what's going on in their supply chain. On top of that, a lot of the manufacturing in India actually relies on import of raw material from other countries, which from a carbon perspective has a lot of negative impact. It also exposes the company to additional import costs and of course geopolitical risks, which we've all been reading about. So here we are looking for businesses or founders who are building integrated supply chains. These are supply chains which are linked by technology, and therefore they are cleaner, they are faster, they are more efficient, and they are more climate positive. There are two examples on the next slide. So first is a company in our portfolio called Karthana.io. Now Karthana is a custom manufacturing platform. They work with a backbone of 300 to 400 small manufacturers, And using these manufacturers and linking them together through their platform, they're able to generate custom parts for a lot of high-tech industries in India. Electric vehicles, drones, robots, machine parts for pharmaceutical companies, machine parts for consumer companies. So essentially, Karkhana is a company which can help create an efficient supply chain from scratch right here in India, and therefore fits in very well into our sustainability thesis. Another example is a company called Aruna. This is an Indonesian company, and they export fresh seafood across the world from Indonesia. What Aruna does is that they work directly with farmers to procure the material, but they also integrate with the communities at the grassroots level, and they educate them about reducing overfishing by using technology for demand forecasting or supply management, right? They also work with them to reduce waste, to store correctly to reduce contamination, and therefore, as a result, they're able to generate a very high quality product for export through a very sustainable supply chain. And this is a company which has been growing very, very fast in Indonesia. Okay, moving on to some newer, maybe cooler sectors for you guys. Electric mobility. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have two-wheelers or will buy one as you get into jobs. And so you will know the amount of choice available today in electric two-wheelers. Why is this the case? Why are these vehicles becoming popular? And the economic reason is that the total cost of ownership, which is the cost of the EMI you will pay, plus maintenance, plus fuel. So the total cost of ownership of a two-wheeler or a three-wheeler which runs on electricity is today already lower than a vehicle which runs on diesel and petrol. So these vehicles are starting to make economic sense for consumers and for business use cases as well. On top of that, these vehicles are quieter. They have all the latest connected technology, and of course they're also very good for our polluted cities, and they can help reduce overall carbon impact. So for a variety of these reasons, the government has also been supporting this industry, and therefore we believe that the penetration of EVs will increase in the future. And if we combine the personal and business use cases, this is actually a $100 billion industry waiting to be tapped, and therefore a lot of companies and founders are actually building for this space. So two examples which I want to put on the slide, and if you're from Bangalore, hopefully you've seen the companies, you can go check them out. The first is Ather, and Ather is actually a VC-backed company which is now selling very premium, very high-quality EVs for personal use. The second company is Yulu. Yulu is what we call a shared mobility platform, where anyone, whether an individual or a business, can rent a Yulu bike for their use and then return the bike back to Yulu for Yulu to deploy somewhere else. So it's a shared asset model, and Yulu is now starting to deploy this model also for a lot of B2B delivery fleets. So if you're ordering from Big Basket or Zomato or Swiggy, you may notice that it's a Yulu bike which is coming to deliver the product. And a lot of companies are doing this because by using the Yulu fleet, you can reduce the capex exposure and also become more carbon positive in the process. So companies like Yulu are a very good example of VC-backed commercial companies, but they can also help reduce carbon impact for the business. And if Yulu becomes popular, then for a PIN code, the overall carbon impact for a PIN code in a city can actually also reduce through such shared mobility models. So two very interesting examples, and the bikes are very accessible, so please go try them out. Okay. The next segment, what I want to talk to you about, and also what Mr. George spoke about, is the circular economy. Now, this concept is becoming very prevalent because we're looking for business models where you can extend product life. So if you can get people to use the product more, or if you can enable better recovery or reuse before the product goes into landfill, or even before the product goes into, let's say, recycling, this is a huge win because it leads to direct reduction of waste, and it also speaks directly to preserving resources for the future, and this is an economic priority for governments across the world, and more so in India. So any business which is building in the space has a lot of potential to grow. It's a new and emerging concept, and therefore all of us venture capitalists are following quite closely. I want to highlight two companies again. The first one is called Beatcart. Now, Beatcart is actually enabling sale and purchase of used bikes. So if you don't want your bike anymore, you can go to Beatcart and you can sell it. Beatcart will buy it, they will refurbish the bike, they will fix it, and at the time they sell it back, they'll give you a performance warranty. So in essence, they are encouraging consumers like us to buy a used bike and therefore prevent a new vehicle from coming onto the road. And this is a very interesting problem to solve from a circular economy perspective. Now, Cashify is another company, and they're doing this for used phones, laptops, and other electronics. If you look at the data, electronic waste today is the fastest growing category of solid waste across the world. Disposal of electronic waste is becoming very, very problematic from an environment perspective, but also from a health perspective, because once they reach the landfill, there's a lot of heavy metal exposure to anyone looking to pick the product and recycle it. So Cashify is a very good example of a company which is essentially not letting the products go into landfill. And at the same time, they are fairly scaled up. They've raised a lot of money and are doing very well. So again, two very good examples of companies which are building very interesting business models, and they still retain sustainability as their core focus. And these are real examples of companies you can build in this space. The last one I have to touch upon is the carbon economy. It's now become increasingly clear that whether you're a large listed company or whether you're a small company anywhere in the world, at some point you will have to think about measuring your carbon impact, reporting it, and then over time reducing it. And this is not so easy to do because today we don't have the technology to do so. So we're expecting a lot of new technology to be built in this space and a lot of software to be built as well for enabling companies to manage their carbon programs and to measure and report more effectively. Again, this is a very early space. We're seeing a lot of interesting activity. Two companies, very different business models, which are already present. So one is a company called Step Change in India. What they do is they actually build custom enterprise software for any large company who wants to start reporting on sustainability and then over time try to improve on the metrics. Another company in Indonesia is called Fair Atmos. Fair Atmos actually goes to agricultural areas or forest areas and develops projects for carbon offset. Now, carbon offset is a concept where large companies can look to buy carbon credits to reduce their carbon footprint. And Fair Atmos is essentially building a global platform for that. So again, very divergent business models with sustainability and climate as their core focus. So these are some examples that I wanted to give you. There's a lot more happening, but hopefully these are enough to get you guys thinking and also excited about the upcoming hackathon. The thought I want to leave all of you with is that sustainability and business, or sustainability and economic returns, are very closely interlinked together. And my hope is that, and I would encourage you that as you think about what you want to do in the future, you would keep both these hats on and think about both these issues equally seriously. That's it for me. Thank you. And it's been a pleasure talking to all of you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Those indeed were some knowledgeable words. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a privilege to have Mr. Angelo George, Chief Executive Officer of Bisleri, as a chief guest today. As a token of gratitude, I would kindly request our beloved Head of Department of Commerce, Ms. Amita Priyadarshini, and Ms. Immaculate Mary, Convener of ICD, to kindly felicitate our chief guest. Hackathon aims to foster innovative solutions addressing various sustainability challenges in today's world. I would like to call upon the dignitaries to the ceremony of watering of plants as a positive start to this auspicious occasion. I request everyone to kindly maintain silence. We have reached the juncture of the event where we'll now unveil the first edition of the Sustainability Hackathon 2024, presented to you by the School of Business of St. Joseph's University. With great joy, I request the dignitaries to kindly unveil the poster and officially declare the Sustainability Hackathon 2024 as open. The Sustainability Hackathon of 2024 is officially declared to be open.
Waste generation is on an unsustainable trajectory, overflowing landfills and polluting our ecosystems. As the human population surges, urban areas are straining under the pressure. Infrastructure is creaking at the seams, with transportation networks, water systems, and energy grids struggling to keep pace. We must urgently transition to a more sustainable future. This will require a concerted effort from individuals, businesses, and governments to curb emissions, reduce waste, and build resilient infrastructure. Businesses must move beyond simply gauging their product's carbon footprint and actively embed circularity. This means every step becomes a closed loop. Imagine replacing take-make waste with recover, reimagine, repeat. It's the path to a sustainable future. By framing themes around specific sustainability issues, hackathons can ignite bursts of creativity, leading to groundbreaking ideas for clean energy and waste reduction. Think of it as a fast-paced sprint to a greener future, fueled by collective brainstorming and a dash of healthy competition. This hackathon, with its focused themes and collaborative chaos, is like pressure cooker for innovation. It brings diverse minds together under time constraints, sparking out-of-the-box solutions to environmental challenges. St. Joseph's University's School of Business presents ICBD 5.0's Hackathon.